Coming up next on Get Caught in a Net.
Caught in a net, with a net. For your mind, body, and soul. Get caught in a net, with a net. It's your intellectual radio show, here to inspire you and encourage you to be your very best. Get caught in a net, with a net.
You are now tuned in to Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, where your hosts, Annette Harris, analyze intriguing life questions and concerns, such as, do Christians suffer from mental illness? Have you wondered why they act abnormal? Or you may ask, what is really going on in their minds? Do you need Annette? Well, keep listening for a biblical understanding of the psychology of the mind.
Hey guys, welcome to another wonderful segment of Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. I'm your girl, Annette Harris, the host of this wonderful broadcast, and it is brought to you by Get Caught in a Net Incorporated, of which I am CEO. I am also your certified mental health ambassador and author of Surviving a Silenced Heartbeat. I'm so excited that you have joined us on today. This evening, it is another opportunity for us to bring you great quality programming. And I am going to present my guests in a few more minutes. Now you're looking at me on a Tuesday evening. We're normally here on Wednesday, but we decided that we wanted to make sure that we were able to have our guests come in all at once for this segment. The I Fit the Description is the segment that we started back in 2020, actually, during the lockdown. And I wanted to hear from our young men, our Black men, and to get their thoughts on what was going on, whether it's in their in their neighborhood, in their area, in their lives, but overall in the world, because there were so many things that were happening during the time of COVID, the racial injustice, but not only that, because that's not the only time that it happened, but I wanted to have a safe space where they could be able to talk about what was on their mind. So I'm going to bring them in one by one. I have my wonderful, wonderful co-host, and I don't want him to say what he always says. He's joining us on this evening. Apostle Dion Hunt is coming in because he's going to assist me with this with this wonderful segment. And he knows why I'm laughing, because I always say I asked him to come in and join me and help me out with this. He said, "You don't need my help." I guess I said it for you tonight, huh? How are you doing this evening, Apostle?
I'm doing wonderful, and as always, you don't need my help. You got it, but it's a privilege and an honor to be on this platform, on your platform, and amongst these young black men, professionals, fathers, husbands, all that.
Yeah.
These are some brilliant minds, and so I'm honored just to be on the platform tonight.
Well, thank you again for consenting to come, because we would love to hear your input as well. But I appreciate you. So I am. Let me say this before I get started. I want to encourage each of you that are watching on this evening to make sure that you go ahead and click the share button. That is on our Facebook page. Annette Get Caught in the Net. We're live there. I'm also live on my YouTube channel, Get Caught in the Net Incorporated. We're also live on Instagram. So if you would not mind letting individuals know, we've had the promo out and informing you what we're doing on this evening. But click the share button. Go ahead, throw up the hearts, the thumbs up, the care button for us if you wouldn't mind. What you're doing when you do that is you're pushing it out. And I thank you in advance for doing just that. This is going to be a great conversation on this evening. And I have some gentlemen here that I'm going to reintroduce. This is my wonderful panel. And I'm telling you guys, I was listening, going back and looking at the 2020, when we first, very first segment. And I'm like, I was wowed every time, listening to you guys and, how you're able to express yourselves. More importantly, that's the key for this. And so there's so much to get into. You, Pastor John Fernair, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Well, you are so welcome. What I want to do when I go around and ask and reintroducing you guys, just give us a little update of what you have been doing since the last time that you were on Mind, Body, and Soul.
Oh, wow. What haven't I been doing? It's, time nowadays seems to just be speeding up. So in the past 2.5 years or so since we started, obviously I've been busy with the high school, Unity Christian Academy here in South Holland, Illinois, where I'm one of the co-founders. We've had our first graduating class that happened this past summer in June of last year. I also am part of a group that started a community activism, social justice group called Micah 6 and 8. And we put on the first Juneteenth celebration in the history of South Holland, the village of South Holland. And that was really, really exciting. We had Jesse White tumblers come out and others. And so it was a great time. And just steady, working, doing what I can do to help young people. Oh, I guess I also have dove into the world of esports since we last started. So I've been, doing a little coaching there. And actually, we were able to send a couple of students to college on scholarship last year for esports. So, and we've got a couple more slated for this year. So doing pretty good.
Love it. Love it. So you're out there doing the thing. Okay. Appreciate you sharing with us. Well, God is giving you strength to do just that. Let's see. I have attorney Jackson is in the house. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Annette. Good to see y'all. Good to see everybody. It's been a while. It's been a while, but it seemed like it was just yesterday too. But yeah, definitely good to see everybody.
Yes. So what have you been working on? Some exciting attorney things?
Yeah, well, if you consider property tax exciting, then that's right. But yeah, I think the last time we talked, I was working for the Board of Review, doing property tax appeals. Now I've actually switched sides, and I've gone to a law firm. So I'm working in a law firm representing people, well, mostly commercial people doing property tax appeals. So been doing that for, I guess, a little over 2 years now. So it's just been that, been just trying to be a good husband and father and son and brother and, and grandfather. I forgot about that. And
Okay, all
just
right.
being here. So
Look, when he threw the grandfather, somebody was like, grandfather. I think you have 2, right?
No, 3. Well, my oldest son, Jeremy, in Charlotte, he has 2 grandkids, right? 2 grandchildren.
Right.
I mean, he has 2 children. I have 2
grandchildren. Right. That's what I thought. Okay. All right.
Right.
All right. Well, y'all expanding that clan over there. All right. Well, that's good stuff. Thank you for sharing. Michael DeBose, how are you this evening?
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
I'm doing okay.
Good. What's been happening over in your world?
Oh Lord, I've been all over the world. I just landed in LA earlier today, so I'm sorry I got on a little late. I was out here revamping and building a studio right now. So just what has been happening? That's a great question. When's the last time? I meant to ask this in the show prep chat or whatever. When was the last episode of this? Was it like last?
Well, let's see here.
I don't even remember. It's been a year.
Actually, the very last episode was May of 2021.
Dang.
Can y'all believe that?
Oh wow. Time flies. It's crazy.
It does.
Okay. So yeah. So no, a lot has happened since then. I'm still, doing my thing on the video TV production side. So yeah, May of 21, we just finished a documentary around in April, so a month prior to that, commissioned by DC Mayor Muriel Bowser on DC statehood. So since then, that aired to rave reviews. That was premiered at a couple of film festivals. We also won, as of now, 9 awards for that, including 7 Telly Awards. Yeah, so that was awesome. That was my first time. Like, they didn't have a red carpet ceremony as they usually do because of the pandemic, but I got those in the mail, and like that was just awesome. Like holding a solid gold trophy with my name on it. I was associate producer for that project. Worked along with Kadesh. He was director of photography for that. So that was kind of cool, like to see all of that happen. Yeah, the girls are getting big, growing. Athena's turning 9 tomorrow, actually. So that's gonna be my first birthday. Her first birthday, I'm not there. Zora's about to be 3. So yeah, yeah, she's running the house. It's crazy. But no, guys, good. Adele's doing great. She's now we're in like we joke all the time, an awards race, because she won two Telly Awards, a New York Festival Award for Best Podcast of the Year, and a couple others. So she always had like 5 or 6 on the shelf. And I came in one swoop, like 7. I'm like, I'm Tom Brady on you right now. So like, in-house battle going on right now. But, so it's good. It's good stuff. And we built and bought a house last March. So coming up on a year this month, actually. And yeah, just loving life. Yep.
I love it. Apostle, you listening to all this?
Yeah. I mean, these are some growth spurts.
Okay. Indeed.
Amazing stuff, yeah.
Which is why we are so we can
during the pandemic.
Right, during the pandemic. All right, Cornelius, Mr. Crossley.
What's going on, everybody? Good to see everybody. Certainly appreciate Miss Annette and Apostle Deion Hunt. Always love hearing from you, brother. Certainly my esteemed comrades and family members. Good seeing everybody. Let's see. Since the pandemic, wow. Whew. A lot of things have happened. So obviously being a teacher, we're back in the school, so kind of, in-person learning, back to doing that. I think the last time we talked, my most recent edition had just turned 1. He's now 3. So he's now 3. So house is really crazy. I'm doing that. I guess it's more of a zone defense than hand of fan. But yeah, just as everybody else said, just kind of living life, doing this new thing. Since then I've kind of stepped away from coaching basketball, so really focused more on the family and education and doing those things. So yeah, just really just like I think Jabari said it, Tony Jackson, just trying to be a better father, be a better husband. Really just trying to stay up on my wife. My wife is an avid reader, so trying to catch up with her in her books. So that's kind of been my thing now. But just enjoying life. Really just trying to understand things a little bit better, politics-wise. Just really taking more of a deeper dive into that. So those are those things.
Okay, all right. I love how y'all giving shout outs to these wives. Y'all know what's up. Y'all know what's up. I see my Mr. Matthias Adams in the house. Gifted hands.
Hey, family, how y'all doing?
Wait, I thought that was your background music. Okay, I get it.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm actually my assistant director is holding a session right now. So if you all hear drums, please let me know. I could probably move to another place. But it's an honor to each and every one of you all. I did not know that it's been almost 2 years since our last show. I thought it was last year, and Mike, I thought it was last year. I reflected on that. I said, no, it was last, but 2 years. But it's just amazing to be on you all. And it's not even everybody, but I really enjoy the conversation that we have. Annette, thank you again for the opportunity and the invite. Apostle Hunt, my brother. Hey, I appreciate you and all your thought-provoking posts on social media, my friend.
Appreciate that.
They really encourage me as well. But I would say, for me, it's 2 years. I mean, it's been a lot of great things that happened. God has really blessed. But I would say most importantly, I just thank God just for like I'm in testimony service. But I just appreciate God for allowing me just to be here, but also just to be able to be used by Him. But most importantly, just being a great husband, as everybody says, just trying to be a great husband, a great father, and trying to find harmony in everything that's going on between ministry and just the different companies that I have as well too. But it's been a great thing, so far. And since then, like I said, I'm at the studio right now. Like I said, I've been able to acquire an assistant director, so that's been great for me right now. We're looking at some partnerships that have really been able to some things that we're in the mental health space, gifted hands. So we're doing drum circle classes with different, like the Crestwood Terrace. So we're affecting that mental health space, as well as just a lot of different other areas as well too. And just a shameless plug, I have a drum clinic coming up on Saturday that's featuring a wonderful professional touring artist, Miss Monica Carter from Atlanta. And she's going to be my featured artist. And I have a few other local drummers as well that are coming through. It's going to be an amazing time as well, too. So, yeah. And just, again, just ministry as well, too, is also on the agenda as well, too, with the youth. And just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of lanes, a lot of irons in the fire right now, but definitely not complaining. Just thank God for expansion, really.
Oh, love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I actually thought that was your theme music, and you were when you unmuted your device. I was like, "Oh, go ahead now."
Like, what is this? Now,
I ain't gonna tell you what I thought. I thought he was about to come with a joke.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Now, what I will say, Annette, that music you have, that theme music you have, is a total vibe. I don't know who made that track for you, but
Okay.
it almost makes me want to go back. I said, whoa, this thing has a nice little wave to it. It's a nice little vibe. So yeah, it's much different than the last time. I was like, I didn't know you changed theme music up. It's nice. It's nice.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Try to do a little something. Do a little
I
something.
see. It's nice. It's a nice vibe. Nice vibe.
And talk about upgrades. The show was already good 2 years ago.
Yes.
Now it's on another level.
It's another level.
Thank y'all. Well, if you're talking about my promos, I got to give a shout out to my girl Brandy McCord, because that chick right there, she's the stuff. So she creates my promos. And
Good job,
so
Brandy. Good job.
we got to give her a shout out. And there she is right there.
Brandy.
She's acknowledging you guys on this evening.
Salute to you, Brandy. Awesome job. Awesome job.
Yes. Nobody like her. Somebody said they got to get their own Brandy. Don't take.
You got to get your own. She's a proud member of so-called the Center. I have the esteemed honor of pastoring her. So if you would like your own Brandy, you got to get your own Brandy.
Oh Lord Jesus! I was waiting on that. Thank you, Apostle. All right, let me see. Thank you all. I didn't miss anybody for introducing and taking us back a little bit about what you've been doing. I do want to say again, guys, if you're watching, go ahead, click the share button. When you throw in your comments, I'm going to show them on the screen. So I appreciate those of you who have already come in and shared in live. We're here live on Instagram, my YouTube channel, Get Caught in the Net. Also, of course, Facebook, Annette Get Caught in the Net. Thank you, Janice, for sharing on tonight and coming in. And I see Monique. Thanks for coming in, Monique. I think she was laughing when Micah was talking about the awards competition they have going on in their home. I also see Minister Gloria is on. Thank you for watching on tonight. And I see another comment here. I think somebody probably want me to show that. Hi to my amazing husband, Mike. Thanks for coming in, Adele. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. All right, guys. So we're going to jump right in. So there were a few things that we wanted to kind of touch on this evening, and there's so much, of course, to talk about. We always know we can never get to everything, but I know we want to focus on a couple of athletes and the situations that have been surrounding them lately. Now, let me say this first. I was looking at, was it Good Morning America, or it might have been the 12 o'clock, whatever they have on now. But anyway, there's a book called Come Home Safe. I don't know if any of you have heard of this book. It's by author Brian G. Buckmeyer. He's a brother, and he actually, let me see, I think he's a legal analyst from ABC News, and he's also a New York Legal Aid Society public defender. All right. So to summarize, he wrote this book because I guess he took legal guardianship of his brother. And his brother asked him one day, and I don't know exactly where they were, but basically asked him, how do I not become hashtag? Of course, that grabbed his heart. And this is really the basis of him writing this book. But very, very deep. I mean, the title alone, and then hearing that little backstory can kind of, get your mind going about what this book is actually, what it's actually about. And so we have these discussions here on IFTD, about the making sure you come home safe, and, all the different things that we face, whether it's, in our neighborhoods or wherever, around the world. We see stuff happening all over. And, it grabs at your heart, it tugs at your heart. And so, again, we want to have these discussions, to be open enough to have these discussions about where we are, like mentally, and how we're handling it. And then that could hopefully in turn help someone else in how they're dealing with it. So I went through that particular, because we can talk about that a little bit later, but I wanted to try and get to your suggested topics on this evening. Now, I know, Michael, you mentioned about, am I pronouncing his name? Is it Ja Morant?
That's
Morant?
correct. That's correct. John Morant.
Yeah,
That's
John
correct.
Morant is his last name.
Like I was doing a little bougie there. Okay. All right. So John, of course, I had to look him up, guys, because I didn't really know what was going on with it. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I had heard about it, but I didn't know all the details. So that's the one. Is that the young man with he's had a few incidents, but the latest is him brandishing a weapon on
That's correct.
Yes.
On Instagram,
Okay.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm on it. Huh? All right. So how do we want to start with this, Michael? Do you want to start that particular topic off?
Well, I mean, just so we're clear and the audience is clear, like, I mean, it encompasses a lot, I guess we can kind of say. I mean, if you look at the last year and a half since we've had this, Black men have been in the spotlight, you know what I'm saying, and more than just, Obama or, movie star or whoever else. Like, I mean, you've had TJ Holmes incident, you know what I'm saying? You've had what's become all too regular Tyree Nichols down in Memphis, you know what I'm saying? You've had a lot of athletes now, like we were mentioning John Morant, young man down in Georgia, I'm forgetting his name, football player.
Carter, Jalen
Yeah.
Carter.
Jalen Carter.
Exactly. It's like Black men from all different sectors of life have been in the spotlight for one reason or another lately. And I don't know, it's just interesting. So it just kind of was impressed upon me. Like, I don't know, I guess what was everyone else's thoughts about, like, where things have been and like kind of like where they are now. Not just from a news perspective, but just, I don't have sons. I've got two girls, but I feel like, our image in pop culture, in media, in news, what have you, has been I don't know, going in a different direction lately. And I just find it quite interesting. One thing I'll say in particular kind of started off specifically about Ja Morant. He was in and out of the news, kind of sort of. What first caught my attention about him, because honestly, he was one of my, I say this, not to sound like a old head, but like the NBA makes me feel old. I just turned 34 about a month ago, and the NBA makes me feel old in life now more than ever, because I remember 20 something years ago being in a room over at Jane's house with most of you here talking about, oh, you heard about that kid coming out of Akron? What y'all think about him? You saw him on Sports Illustrated? You know what I'm saying? And now this dude just passed Kareem. His sons are about to come in the league. Like, mind blown. So I'm saying all that to say, I don't know a lot of players intimately, like by jersey numbers or by names and teams as I used to, because life. And I pride myself on being an avid sports fan. Like, I'm not like Ian Corn, like basketball all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? Like I so when I saw Ja a couple years ago, I was like, yo, I like his vibe. I like, his tenacity. Like, that was the first point guard with explosiveness I really enjoy watching since Derrick Rose, honestly. And so he was like one of the few players I kind of immediately recognized. And then come to like a couple months ago, and I see him in on social media, honestly, because Shannon Sharp kind of pointed out Ja. This was the quote. He was like, Ja, you're not hard. Stop trying to act like a thug. Stop trying to act street. You grew up in the suburbs, bro. What's the deal? Like, he said it differently, but and I was like, dang, what's going on with him? I was trying to like figure out the situation. And like since then, it's like spiraled out of control. And it's really interesting because he's a perfect example of somebody who is honestly seemingly forgotten where they came from. Like this dude grew up in a family. I was reading a little bit about him, like history-wise. Grew up with a family of athletes. You know what I'm saying? And like, honestly, his circle is failing him like royally right now. So I mean, that's one piece. But I was kind of wanted to like hear what everybody kind of thought. You know, where state of the black man is right now. Because like I said, you got a lot of different variables of where things are right now. You know, you got even Jonathan, what's guy's name? Michael B. Jordan, Jonathan Majors. You know what I'm saying? And that's a whole nother subject line right now about what black masculinity looks like. So it's a lot of the black man is like a big subject right now, and not for the usual reasons.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Anyone want to jump in on that?
I mean, to me, I've got a couple of takes with Ja and just athletes in general. So like that started, and you had Jalen Carter from University of Georgia, and for anybody who doesn't know, he has an opportunity, or had an opportunity, probably not anymore, but to be the number one pick in the draft. If the Bears don't trade down, they probably take him, as he's highly regarded as the top athlete coming out in the NFL draft this year. And while he's at the combine, where he should be about to start the greatest time of his life, back in Georgia, they issue a warrant for his arrest for racing and speeding. And what's interesting is he's sped before. And I mean, listen, here in Chicago, we all know, athletes like to drive fast. I mean, I remember as a youngster, the stories of Walter Payton on on the Dan Ryan. I mean, not on Dan Ryan, but on 94.
Yeah.
Just opening it up. I mean, in rush hour traffic, 90, 100 miles an hour.
Michael Jordan too.
Michael did it too. Then you've got Lance Briggs who wrecked his truck and then just left it on the expressway. But yeah, so but what was tragic about his case, though, is I don't know if everybody remembers, but the night of the championship, there was a car accident where one of his teammates and a staffer, an employee at the University of Georgia, died. And so basically what they're saying is they were both racing really fast, and the driver of the truck lost control and they crashed. And so now, and I think Mike D brings up a real interesting point. Like, we have all of these forces that are coming together. And I don't like the term, but you've got the cancel culture, or you have the internet kind of moral outrage that happens the second something happens, before anybody knows what's going on. And sometimes people should be canceled, but then other times you need to see what's going on. And then you have this intense spotlight on minorities, and not just Black men, but minorities in general, because the demographic of the country is changing. And so that impacts things. And you have a popular news channel that whose main audience is afraid of that change. And right now, they're just had a bunch of stuff released where even the owner didn't believe the lies that they were reporting, and now they're about to lose $100-something million lawsuit. That's going to be crazy. I'm curious how that plays out. That's a whole nother thing. But it just leads to all of these factors where everybody is jumping on things, while there's an intense scrutiny on people who've already had the deck stacked against them in the past. And so the gentleman who wrote the book, Get Home Safely, we all grew up and knew about those things, but even more so now. Like, everything is ratcheted up. Everything is more intense. And now you have a case where you don't even have to be the one who caused the incident or partook in the incident. But if you're just around the incident, if by sheer news story or headline or whatever, you're any way associated, then the same punishment or whatever that goes to the person who does it bleeds into your life. So you already, as a minority, have had, a target on your back, so to speak. And now I cannot do anything. Like I brought up Brandon Miller, the Alabama basketball player. Like, he didn't shoot anybody. He didn't own a gun. He didn't touch a gun. But because somebody sent him a text and he went to go pick up his teammate from a club, now he is getting booed and jeered. And then the police presented the case like he came up in there like a thug. Yo, man, here's your piece, handle your business. When he, at the time, now, once again, we're still waiting on more things to come out, but I tend to believe the story from his lawyer because the police even said in the interview that there's nothing for them to charge him with or arrest him with, and he's simply been a cooperating witness. But he was just going, and once again, this is Alabama, where lots of people own guns. He was going to pick up a teammate. He didn't know what had happened at the club. He wasn't there. He wasn't a part of it. As a matter of fact, he was late picking him up, which, maybe that's the story to be on time, because if he would have been on time, maybe things wouldn't have happened that way. But he goes there. His teammate had left clothes, a bag, and in that bag, a gun in his car, or in some shape, way or shape, was in the backseat of his car, hops in his backseat, grabs the weapon, gives it to another guy, and they proceed to get into a shootout with another gentleman that they got into an argument with, killing the young woman who was with the other gentleman. Bullets are flying, bullets are riddling his car because they're shooting back and forth, and he's running for his life. And now everybody is mad at him, not at the two men that are already in prison, not at the two men that are probably, Alabama still has the death penalty, so they're probably going to get whatever it is there now. I think it's the needle, but here is a young, soon to be successful number 1 or number 2 pick in the NBA draft. He has to also, be a part of it. So I think as we continue to talk to our children, as we continue to, talk to, our Black and brown communities, like, hey, now it's not just watch what you're doing, but watch the environments that you find yourself in. Watch the people that you're around, even if they're doing something that should be okay. Even if they're doing something that society thinks is perfectly normal, you have to say, how can this go sideways for me? And some people, should know better. The latest thing is he could lose 50 games in the NBA. He could miss the playoffs. Right. Even though, Colorado's an open carry state, how did his weapon get there? You can't have a weapon on an NBA flight. So now, because he wanted to portray some image, that isn't even a part of his real life, he has all of these other ramifications for something silly, like, that's not even important. So I just think it's really important that our young people understand that these little things that might be cool in a music video or fun on a TikTok for somebody else can have major ramifications in your life. And these are 3 young men that, have their character hurt, that are losing millions of dollars. Bags of money. And so it's really tough. It's really sad.
Yeah. Apostle, did you want to hop in here? Because I was going to ask a question. I know you are
Yeah, there's a couple things. I mean, you know, a lot of what is intertwined in how our young people live life now um, is gun culture.
Mm-hmm.
Gun culture has a lot to do with how a lot of our young people are living life and portraying strength. You know, we were talking about how Ja Morant is a fearless basketball player, and you know, Shannon Sharp alluded to the fact that, or to the idea of it being an act. I don't necessarily think it's an act.
Right.
I think that he, for whatever reason, through whatever path of his life, the journey of his life, he's tapped into some fearlessness, and it's bleeding over into other areas of his life. And he's definitely got a chip on his shoulder, even if that chip is, I gotta prove how fearless I really am. And so, you know, there's a lot of discussions that we can have about what is strength in the Black community. What is masculinity, that like Mike brought out earlier a few moments ago. What is being strong? And right now, it just seems, you know, especially in America, that gun culture is just like, it's like the OK Corral. It's like any and everybody got a gun now.
Mm-hmm.
And because I got a gun, see, the mentality in the streets is if you're going to carry one, then you can't be afraid to pull it. And if you pull it, you can't be afraid to shoot.
Yeah.
You know? And so all that stuff, it makes me afraid for our young people.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think about the fact that it's a shame that, you know, Pastor John was talking about how all these different portrayals of the Black man is just bleeding into the lives of so many other people. But it just made me think while he was talking how that's another thing that we have to talk to our young sons and daughters about, that you can be guilty by association.
That's it.
That just by being in and amongst the wrong crowd, you can be just as guilty or viewed as just as guilty in the eyes of the court or even in the eyes of public opinion. You know, I think about sometimes how as soon as a Black man messes up in the news or in the media, in sports or in, what do? They go and grab the first Black man they see and put a mic in his hand and say, talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't say, watch this, if you don't read from this script and say what we think you ought to say, what the status quo is, then you're just as guilty as he is. And we're going to treat you just like we cancel him. We're going to cancel you too.
Right.
Well, I think there's this movement to, you know, paint us all with the same brush. And if we're not careful, if we don't answer things a certain kind of way, then they will make whatever stereotype stick to us, even if it doesn't apply. And I think that's unfair. You can't judge. And I don't see it too many, you know, we see it in other minority groups, but not like Black men, or even Black women, you know, that one of us can make a mistake. And then that is the representation of all of us now, you know? And so that's what I'm seeing, how a lot of this stuff is unfolding. And I got another question concerning this that I'll ask a little later.
Okay. I like this comment here, Brandy. Don't just consider your actions, consider the actions of everyone in your circle if you're Black. That is a simple yet profound statement.
It's real.
It's very real, and it's almost like it's crazy because and I know this is simple thinking. It's sad that it has to be like that. You know what I mean? And that's probably what some of them are thinking. You know, why should I have to consider my actions or whatever? And so then they go and they do, the brandishing the weapon or doing this, that, and the other, because maybe they're just not, considering that I need to consider what I'm doing because I'm Black. It's almost like living, and it's crazy, living in a fantasy world. Or in the perfect world, we wouldn't have to be concerned about something like that, but it's there. Cornelius, I wanted to ask you in relation to all this that we've heard thus far, because when you guys started describing about Ja and the other situations, and I keep having to go back, Brandon and Jalen, all the athletes that we've just been discussing, I was hearing a couple of things. So of course I was hearing about the company you keep, who you hang out with and allow to be around you is going to be crucial. And there are consequences to that. I also, Apostle already mentioned about the what Mike said earlier about your strength and masculinity. But going back up to talking about the company you keep, Cornelius, I know you've dealt with, you've coached, you've taught. How important is that? Would you say, for even not only for yourself, but those that are coming up, those that you are coaching and teaching and being an example to? How important is that to talk to them about the company they keep, so they, hopefully won't get mixed up in, a situation such as Ja or anyone else for that matter?
Great. I got to say, great discussion. Great topic. The one thing that that I try to tell my athletes and even my sons is that don't let your gift take you where your character can't keep you. And that's the thing that I think that we've gotten away from this generation, and I think it's more or less like we kind of feel like we're I think this generation of athletes and young people in general, they almost feel like they're invulnerable. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of that has to do with, it's more of a video game culture. You know what I mean? They kind of think that they can hit the reset button and everything will just go back to normal. And I even have to tell my 8-year-old son, which is still blowing my mind, because he understands so much at 8. He can send a text message. He can send a GIF. He can create group chats. He can do so much that at 8 years old, my mind just wasn't thinking like that. And I'm already have to tell him like, hey, Lil Corn, you may send a message and you may think that you've deleted that message, but that thing stays with you for a while, and you have to really be careful. Even at 8, something that you may put out on social media will stay with you and may affect you at 38 because it'll be archived. And I just think that now what I'm seeing with all of this stuff going on is just that we don't have the Black consciousness that the early 20th century had. And I say that, where are our W.E.B. Du Bois? Where are our Malcolm X's or our Martin Luther Kings? Where are those individuals that stood for something? I mean, we may not agree with their politics, but we understood their character. And I think even, and it's funny, I've been watching The Godfather of Harlem. I mean, and I've been watching it, but it's a very interesting series because it's making me think like, okay, even though it's a completely immoral way of capitalism, but when you understand their plight and when you understand they have a cause, You know what I'm saying? There, it's not just about me. It's about my family. It's about, you know, the generation of black people. It's about, you know, getting black generational wealth. It's about Black Wall Street. This is what we have to do to survive. So yeah, it's completely immoral, but we understand the cause. I just don't understand the cause of these young people and what are we trying to accomplish here? Because somebody had to crawl, somebody had to struggle just so you could run. You know what I mean? And so now all of the liberties and all of the things that you guys have now. I mean, you know, Michael Jordan created this, you know, hey, off the court, I can be more than a basketball player. I can make $1 million shoe deals. You know what I mean? I mean, Bill Russell, all of these people who struggled, who didn't have the same leverage and, you know, the ability to gain all this amazing amount of money. And now we just sit here and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to throw it away. You know, I'm just going to like completely not think about future athletes because this John Morant thing is not only about him, but this is about future athletes. This is about athletes that come behind him that, okay, you know what? Now we're going to be even tighter. You know, there's going to be more scrutiny. There's going to be more. It was already a lot of handcuffs that black athletes had, especially in basketball. I think
Mhm.
Allen Iverson was the poster child that allowed the NBA to really, you know, kind of say, hey, you know what? We want this image and we're going to make sure we maintain this image. So now you started seeing, okay, you can't sit on the bench in a hoodie. You have to have a blazer. You know, you have to look presentable. So I say that to say this whole John Morant thing, he really has to understand he has a chance to be a budding superstar. I mean, somebody who could really change, you know, the culture of this generation of athlete. And it's like, wow, you know, he could do so much more. I mean, he could influence an entire generation of athletes to not use guns, to be more responsible. And I truly hope that from all of this, he'll actually become an advocate to say, you know what, I made this mistake. Let me show you what not to do and use it as a positive. But I just think it goes back to character. I just think we've lost, this generation has lost their moral compass on character and the cause because they're just doing things and it's not making sense. You know, I mean, like I think Shannon Sharp said, one of the sports columnists said, he pressed the IG live. You know what I'm saying? It was his account. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like somebody was video recording him and he was happened to be in the wrong. He made a conscious decision to do this. And it's like, okay, what did you think was going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, this is, you're held to in a completely different higher standard. You're a brand. You're a $500 million brand. You know what I mean? It's like, this is generational wealth. You know what I mean? And this is like, I think those are the things that I think about. Like, okay, I don't want my son to think this is an acceptable behavior and not realize that, hey, you're not only affecting you, you're affecting your kids, my grandchildren, because somebody's going to pull this up 15 years down the line and say, hey, remember when this happened? I mean, and I keep thinking of, the only thing I can reference this to is the Gilbert Arenas situation that happened. And as soon as that happened with Gilbert Arenas, he was blacklisted. You know, they didn't care how good he was. I think he played maybe 2 more seasons, and he literally got cut off at the prime of his career. You know what I mean? So I just hope that, and it's really giving me a pause to say, hey, what am I representing? What am I doing to be a little bit more transparent about, hey, this is what I need to be a little bit better in, and maybe leading young people, hey, what's your purpose? You know what I'm saying? What's your character? What do you do as far as integrity goes when nobody's watching? And I think that's what's really inspiring me. Like, hey, how can I be better? Because, you know, there's some things that I know I need to be better at, and maybe I need to be more transparent so the younger athletes and students and just younger people in general can know, hey, we can change the narrative. So I think that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Look, we're getting comments everywhere on Instagram. I have a question, and I don't know, attorney, maybe you want to jump in on this, see if you can respond to this. Could Morant's actions be a result of him being threatened by someone?
Well, I don't necessarily know that his, what he did was a result of being threatened by someone, like, kind of like what Corn and everybody was saying. This was a conscious decision, I think, that he made, to do this without, kind of like without any fear of repercussion. And, I think that kind of gets to, what like Cornelius was saying about the kids or the younger generation nowadays is, they have this, it's like there's no fear of repercussion, or, they can just go and do whatever. And, I guess me, I just kind of think that it's, I guess, my generation or their parents who have kind of allowed them to do this.
Okay.
This younger generation, and even us, everybody, you get away with what you can, until, boundaries are placed on you. So, I just think it's kind of one of those things where, you want your offspring to, I guess, do more, achieve more, or to be more, quote unquote, freer than you were. And so I don't know if, and I'm just talking in the aggregate, it just seems like, the reins have been loosened, a bit. And, these kids, they're growing up, doing these things without fear of repercussion. I mean, and, the three gentlemen that we brought up, or kids that we brought up, you think about their ages, Moran's in his early 20s. I think Brandon Miller is 19. Jalen Carter is probably 21, they're young. I mean, they're under half my age. I mean, they're, I just, and, it's like we're looking at them and expecting them to, behave, as if they're, mature adults, and, they still have, growth to do, and, they still have mistakes to make. But, these kids and everybody, they've grown up so fast, and that's just, how our society is now. We're growing up, or they're growing up so fast. Information is available to them. Corn was talking about how his kid is 8 years old, and he's doing things that I probably couldn't have done at 20 years old. And it's a different time, and we kind of have to be aware of that, but we also have to just kind of understand that the things they do. I mean, we have to kind of put it in, it's different from 2023 than it was, back in 1983 or back in 1993. And, I might be dating myself a little bit there, but I'm just, it's the times are different, the information that's available is different. And, we have to be aware of that, but, kind of pulling it back to, I guess, that we're talking about here, the Black males, those people that we've talked about, they're considered stars in what they do, or they're the ones who have kind of the resources to get help for any errors that they make. So they may get a second chance, or, they may get an opportunity to, further along, but you have to kind of be concerned about those who don't have those type of resources, those of us who don't, and, you don't want them to be left behind. And, and that's, it's kind of like what, I talked to my children about, and, just making sure that, you get a second chance or a third chance, or, anything. So, we kind of have to act on their age. And, they have to grow up quick, because that's the world that we live in. And, for a while, you know, it's like, yeah, they give you so much, or they, you know, society says, hey, you know, you had a black president, so everything must be great, you know, but it's a whole lot of people in this country that were very upset that there was a black president, and you know, and let you know that, and you know, you kind of see it now, you know, with the division that's going on, and you know, these attempts to erase us learning our history, and you know, it's just all that, and you know, we just have to be aware of that, and we have to, you know, have our children be aware of that, and you know, I know we're just talking about black men here, but you know, you know, it's just very important that you know, that they're aware of that, and that they're aware of the things that they do does have repercussions. You know.
Okay. Apostle, I'm going to want you to jump in here. I wanted, let me read these two comments that actually they correlate over on Instagram. Should we consider that hopelessness, no matter how rich you become, is generational trauma for a lot of us in the Black community? And then this comment over on Facebook, I think it correlates. Many of our young people aren't wired to expect that level of success and stardom. So when they reach it so quickly, they don't get the crash course on how to behave yourself wisely in the heat of the spotlight.
Oh, wow.
That's deep.
Yeah. And I was thinking about what Cornelia said, how Ja Morant pressed that go live button. I remember a time, even in the NBA, and I'm not sure they still do this, where they would sit the rookies down and have them go through literal courses on how to conduct themselves, on what was acceptable behavior. The fact that they're role models now and people are watching, and they don't just represent themselves, they represent their team, they represent their families, they represent the NBA. I'm not sure if they still do that, but I know that there was a time when they did.
Okay.
And just these guys, you guys are saying so many great things. The culture now is just, you know, anybody can be famous, you know, with social media, with all these different platforms. You can have followers long before you go pro. You can have followers. And young people in general sometimes don't know what to do with that type of influence. And that can be a drug where you're constantly looking for the next big thing to wow your audience and your followers. And the fact that he pressed live before he went and did that, he wanted people to see, because it was going to add to his persona, so to speak. But I want to throw this out there and just see what you guys thought about it. I heard a saying, and I can't remember what athlete said it, but I have this image of him standing at a platform, and he has a mic in his hand, and he says that because the question was, well, where are the Black men who have purpose, who are driven by bigger things, larger things, who have causes, who have, you know, principles that they are striving to uphold and protect? He said, hard times create strong men. Strong men create easier times. Easy times create weak men. And the need, and then the weak men create the hard times. Do you feel like that's like that's a cycle? Like that's legit, like that's, you know, has relevance? Hard times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. and weak men make hard times.
Woo! Matthias, can you come off mute? I want to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, asserting yourself is the biggest thing. Like you were saying, Apostle. Yes, weak men can make things hard because you're not asserting yourself. And one of the things that I would definitely say with Ja, that's one of the things that he has failed to do. That's one of my favorite players, but I was disappointed with him in this move because I was expecting more of him. And maybe that's my mistake as far as like putting too much expectation on him. But I was very hurt, by him just to see him brandishing that and just really going outwardly and like Cornelius was saying, pressing that go live button and really putting everything out there on social media like that. That's not something a working professional would do that's really trying to carry themselves with class and dignity. But I would say this too as well. We really have to understand, I think Brandy commented just a little while ago and was just talking about the stardom and having a crash course and it just really being a wake-up call. $200 million is not going to change, the moving parts of somebody that's who they are. I mean, for me, that would change me for the better in understanding that I got to step up and be a leader in my crowd. If I have people around me that are toxic, if I have people around me that are really holding me down or holding me back, I have to make sure that I assert myself as a leader, going back to my initial point. And that's the thing that job really failed to do. When you're in that situation, you got to be the catalyst. You got to be the trailblazer. You got to be the guy in the crowd that say, hey, y'all, we need to avoid that crowd. We need to avoid that club. We need to avoid, carrying ourselves in this particular way or manner, because you know what? I got to, as Apostle just said, I got to represent my family, represent myself, represent my family, represent the league, represent, I have a lot of entities that I'm representing, as well too. So again, we have to make sure that, as we are going higher in stardom and going higher in fame and fortune, that we still have to maintain a mantle of integrity, honesty, wisdom. I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that we can really attain as you grow and as you start to expand your brand and as fame starts to be attached to your name. But yes, obviously, and Mike D mentioned it earlier, his circle failed him tremendously. But at the end of the day, he has the voice. He's the voice of reason in that crowd to say, hey, y'all, we're going to go a different direction. I have $200 million. I could stay away from the streets, because he's not even a street guy, and that's the thing. Let's go a different direction as well, too. And we don't have to go to this thug life mentality and this whole situation to where, I have to represent myself and be hard like that. Because the ones that, real recognize real, as the streets say. And a lot of these guys that's in the league that's really from the streets, they can see right through that as well too. So again, he's doing this, and it's not even really who he is as well too. So that's kind of my take on it. But again, it does go back to carrying that mantle of integrity, accountability, honesty, and all those things. If you're really going to really perform well in this at a high level stardom and fame.
You know what though, Annette? Matthias, it's not who he is. It's not who he is, and it's obvious that it's not. But sometimes the most dangerous person is somebody with something to prove.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they become chaotic. You know what I mean? And you can't really tell what they're gonna do next because they got so much to prove. And I totally agree. That's not who he is. It's not. Mm-hmm. He wasn't even brought up that way.
Right.
Wow. That's crazy. I see your comment, Brandy, # be the catalyst. Michael, so you brought this up and you wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on this. What else do you want to say to this? Do you want to give more comments, or are you enjoying what you've heard? Is it?
Oh no, it's all been interesting, honestly, and everybody brought a different perspective, which I appreciate. Not just about him specifically, but in general. I'm just going through my mind about like other people, other black men, like I said, popping up, like the Kanye thing, how that's unraveled over the past year. I don't know. It's just something out there. I try not to sound conspiracy theorist. That was my grandfather. So many, but it's just something out there with Kyrie. Like I could go on and on the list of black men, but I don't know. It's so much has been said. Like I couldn't necessarily pick out one thing. I think the $200 million number was very important, and it reminds me of I was watching King Richard on the plane here. I hadn't seen that. The Will Smith situation that happened over the last year, and then now Chris Rock last week's coming out with came out with his live special, like finally responding to that, you know, black on black, so to speak, you know, clashing or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, it was the interesting part of the King Richard movie where he told Venus in the movie, he was like, "You're not just doing this for you, like you're doing this for like every black kid in the world. Like this is about to be a move." He was like, "We got to do this move right because the eyes of the world are going to be on you, and they're going to equate you." I'm like paraphrasing. They're going to equate you with every black young person out there. So you got to do it like the right way. We can't just go out here and like, you know, he was getting a lot of pressure and like, you know, go the juniors route and all that other stuff. And he's like, "No, I want to do it this way. I want to make sure they grow up the right way and be kids and all that." So I heard that point earlier and it just made me think, you know, I'm not all saying Richard Williams was the perfect, you know, parental. Yeah, I'm not at all saying that. What I am saying is it speaks to the point. My wife and I have been talking about this a lot over to Corin's point earlier. Like we're in a unique generation because we grew up pre-internet, but also in the middle of the revolution and the tech revolution. So not just internet, but also social media. You really think about it, that's like a double whammy on civilization. So it's crazy, you know, you hear all the fun, cute stories. Like we ask Athena all the time, you know, show her a picture of a cassette tape. "Do you know what this is?" I think so. And she has, you know, wrote a rotary phone. She don't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to sound like, oh, I feel old or whatever, but I do, because like it's crazy. Like, you know, I remember like I'm saying all that to say we grew up before that, so we have a little bit, like we were the last generation that kind of has a little bit of context of what this world looked like before all of that popped up. Nowadays, kids, you know, to Corin's point earlier, they're fully immersed in this. It's like you almost can't grow up without technology. You know what I'm saying? It's insane. Like we were just talking to Athena the other night about, you know, what she's watching on YouTube. Something as simple as a silly little video, and you see all these subliminals about like heavy topics like suicide in a kid's video. Like it's insane how much you have to watch out for. So I'm saying all that to say that middle generation is not necessarily as young as my kids, but not as old as me. Those early 20 somethings, you know, it kind of speaks to the generational like what is the older generation kind of pouring into us? Because I mean, if you kind of look at, for instance, take the Chris Rock situation, Will Smith. Who pulled Will Smith to the side afterwards? An older brother, Denzel. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't necessarily his daddy. He had a good 10, 15 years on him, but he had been down that road and he was able to speak a little bit of wisdom into him in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, I don't know whether it's sports, whether it's other areas of life. I don't know if the John Morants of the world are even willing necessarily to listen to someone of our age, like a LeBron, like a, you know what I'm saying, whoever else may be in that side of age bracket. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even sure if they respect them on the court. They respect what they do. They're trying to be like them, trying to be better than them. But I really don't know if they're, you know, Kobe was like all ears with MJ. He was like, teach me what, you know, he was ready to, you know, sop up anything he could, you know, on and off the court. You know what I'm saying? And Kobe came from a background. His father was a professional basketball player too, but he was just willing to listen to wisdom wherever he could take it. nowadays, I don't know if these young guys are there mentally. And maybe it's kind of like the Corn's point earlier, you know, they see life as a video game. They see life like the Drake verse goes, I'm here for a good time, like not a long time. That's the mentality. They, you know what I'm saying? It's honestly, it's like the urban version of YOLO. You know, you heard all the white kids going, you only live once. You know, that's how a lot of these dudes are kind of rolling now. I don't claim to have all the answers on it. I'm just saying it's definitely different. It's not where my dad's generation was. It's not, you know, even me, honestly. I feel like I grew up with a little bit of sense. Like these young dudes nowadays, it's like, geez, bro, like you're gonna really throw away $250 million. You're really willing to do that. And we thought, like y'all mentioned Gilbert Arenas earlier. Remember when he got those big contracts? That was big back then, especially for you know, don't get me wrong, perennial all-star, but somebody who was not a championship contender. I think Gil got what, 120 million, I want to say. And you know, NBA's guaranteed. He was getting paid years after he was out of the league. My point is, they're giving Ja all this money up front. They're giving a lot of these other guys all this money up front, and it's not just about the money. But the point is, they're willing to invest all that in you. They're willing to show publicly, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. And again, going back to the example, you're now showing other young people, get the bag and waste it. Get the bag and do whatever you want with it. Like I said, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. So just do whatever the heck I feel like. It's not sustainable as a culture, honestly speaking. And like I said before, I'm not quite sure that, you know, they're even willing to listen to somebody my age, John's age, you know, Apostle Hunt, Jabari, you know what I'm saying? Not old at all. I'm not talking about go to your grandpa and be like, because it's obviously going to be two totally different worlds. My grandfather, I love him to death. He's 92. He can't really, certain things we could talk about, there's certain things he'd be like, I don't know what that is. You know what I'm saying? I'm at least willing to go to, you know what I'm saying, JD, go to Jabari and be like, hey, where were you all at 40? I'm coming up on 40. Like I'm coming up a teenage, a preteen kid. You know what I'm saying? Those types of questions. I don't really think guys nowadays are even willing to ask that about life. So I don't know. It's a sad state, I feel like.
Now that's oof. Man, y'all be hitting on some stuff. Okay. When you mentioned about that on Instagram, Gwen says, according to one of my close NBA coach friends, they are not open to listening. So that is something in and of itself. And well, of course, it answers the question for you. But yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, let me, Apostle, did you want to hop back into that? Or you?
Well, I concur. Just real quick, I grew up in a time. I'm Generation X, so my generation when the baby boomers or the silent generation was talking, we were quiet. I was just in a situation last week where my father, my natural father, Dr. Hunt, was in town, and we went somewhere amongst the saints, and they were wanting to sit down and just glean from him and sit at his feet and get wisdom from him. I was in a room. Guess what I did? I sat back and I ain't saying nothing. I listened to him talk, and I got just as much wisdom as they were getting, because I recognize who he is, and so I don't think that same reverence is in Generation Z, because Ja Morant's generation, he's not even a millennial, he's Gen Z,
Oh, okay.
So I don't necessarily think that same generation, that same mentality is in Gen Z right now.
Okay. Comment from Brandy. Do you guys think, or a question, so anyone can hop in on this, do you guys think that there's a disparity between these public situations with personalities of color versus white personalities? If so, do you think there's a deliberate sort of training program or professional rearing that white athletes, performers, etc., have access to that keeps them from slipping up as publicly and as much? I hear you, John.
I mean, I think that they just are more familiar with what the status quo is. I think they just know how to play the game and know they've been exposed what you're exposed to matters. And you know, and I'm gonna say, you know, even the whole idea of new money, you know, giving somebody who's never really had much, even if they grew up in a middle class upbringing, but now you throw at them millions, and you can throw at them fame and popularity and celebrity status. That's a lot to deal with, and it goes back to that training. I do think that the NBA should make sure, and I'm not sure if they're not doing it or not doing it. I do think that they should, if they're not doing it, make sure that they, you know, kind of bring back that whole sit all the rookies down. And because it really ought to change with the times, because what they had to teach them in the 80s and 90s
Right.
is different than now, because we have social media now. Like one of the young men said, you can make a post now that can ask Kyrie.
Yeah.
You know, you can make a post now, you know, and to go along with that, can I just slip this in real quick? Annette? What do you guys think about, you know, Nike dropped Kyrie Irving over a post, but they are willing to work with Ja Morant over this gun-toting situation. You know what I mean? Kyrie Irving made a post with no caption, but Ja Morant waved a gun on Instagram. Nike drops Kyrie, but is willing to work with, you know, we'll work with him every step of the way. He's sorry about it. He was gunned. You know what I mean? So it's all a matter of what the powers that be deem acceptable behavior out of black men, what they are going to accept and what they're going to silence. You know what I mean? So I think that needs to be talked about too.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I know I'm also a Cubs fan, so I know Marcus Stroman came out pretty strongly pointing out the differences. Where I think I disagree a little bit, and I think this is the issue that I have with Kyrie, is that he wasn't dropped because of the post. He was dropped for everything that happened after the post. So if we go back and we remember that Kyrie situation, all he did was forward. It was like a retweet or whatever. You know, he didn't, like you said, it didn't have anything in there. And people made, you know, the analogy like, hey, how come nobody's like, you know, canceling Amazon, right? I mean, the link was to Amazon, right? How come they're not banning Amazon, this, that, and the other? The situation was, once Kyrie found out the issue that people had, he chose to respond without any context of reality. So, and this isn't to say that the book was, and I think so many times people look at a work and they want to make it easy. It's either all evil or it's all good, right?
Right.
And there can be a lot of things in that book that are Black affirming, you know, that are important as far as learning history and culture. But then there can also be tidbits that if somebody were saying that about our people, we call them racist. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like there can also be other parts where someone goes too far to do whatever. Kyrie's refusal to acknowledge that there could be any nuance that there could be anything about it. And how dare you ask me to, apologize because I didn't know that that thing was in there? Or how dare you have me say that anything that I do can be questioned? It was his response that ended up getting him suspended, and like all the other things happened. If you go back and look at the timeline, it wasn't until he decided that he was going to die on this hill for a book that he hadn't even read. He just retweeted, versus saying, oh, well, let me take a look. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have. Let me take a look. Any kind of response. But it was that, and I think it goes to actually the other conversation that we were having. Why did Ja hit the button? In a different context, Annette, you brought up this fantasy world. I believe media has presented reality TV, a fantasy world for young adults and children, where they think what happens on their phone and a stream and a TikTok or whatever is real life. And it's not, it's not real. That rapper, his gun might not even be loaded in the video, right? That TikToker, whoever it is, they're not, they don't have what you have. And then when you go and you try to make that real, and like the other person said, how come certain people seem to always get caught up and other people didn't? And Apostle, you mentioned like, because they know that there's still reality, right? Like, there's this concept that, everybody has their own truth. And as we've learned, there are nuances to truth. There are other ways to see things, but there are still certain things that you have to understand. You can't just ignore and do whatever you want, however you want it, and think that there won't be any type of reaction or that I can kind of control it. And, you have to be able to understand, and you can be principled and you can stand on things, and you don't have to compromise your principle, but then you should know what that principle is, and I think some of these young people, they don't know. Like I commend Cornelius, how he mentioned, hey, I'm spending more time with my family. I'm learning more about the political sphere and these things. That's what we need. People not to just have a hot take. Everybody can have a hot take. Anybody can hit record on their phone and have a hot take, but to actually understand the realities, the nuances. Corn, you mentioned, where are the W.E.B. Du Bois and, the MLKs and the Malcolm X's? I believe they're out there, but I believe that this generation doesn't feel like they have to listen to them, because I can just say what I want my reality to be. And I'll just, I'll speak, I'll just live it. I'll manifest it. And it doesn't matter. And while maybe if you're a teenager at a high school who's not the star on your basketball team or football team, it can be a reality. But as soon as you leave that sphere, as soon as you leave that bubble, there is real consequences and real reality. And so if you don't go in understanding that, then it's gonna be a painful and rude awakening. And that's what we're seeing.
Okay. All right. I'm getting comments everywhere, guys. Let me read a couple of these. Let's see. I'm going back over to Instagram. There are a few. Let me see. For some who may come from hopelessness, it often doesn't matter what they lose. Their reasoning is they came from nothing anyway. That's deep. Also, when you mentioned about Apostle, about the distinguishment between was it Ja and Kyrie? This comment came in. You all are forgetting who owns most of these teams. Plantation politics. That was from Gwen over on Instagram. But John, as you were talking, there was something you mentioned about with Kyrie, and I know we don't have to rehash the whole thing, but I thought that when the whole situation came down, that he was ostracized basically for just making the post. But you were mentioning about everything that he responded to basically is
Right. So
basically.
yeah, so you're right. No, the heat came like immediately, right? Like always. There's, I mean, outrage, just like with Ja. Heat
Right.
came immediately, right? It comes immediately. What's Ja's first response? Whoa. He stepped back. He said, you know what? Let me take a couple days. I need to reassess some things. And then the media followed that tone. He needs to talk to his circle. His circle is letting him down, right? Nike followed that tone. Oh, he's making a mint. He immediately like owned it, you know, in effect, right? Versus
let me throw this in there because you know, and this in my mind, I'm gonna be honest with you. He basically did A to Z what they wanted him to do. His response.
Right.
And that's my point.
That's right.
Yeah.
That Kyrie didn't follow the script.
Right.
He didn't follow the script. And so for me, it was almost like, tell me your name is Toby. That's the vibe that I felt. Yeah. Tell me your name is Toby. Because, you know, you can even go, like I said, you can go down the line and look at the names of the people who they shoved the mic in their face and say, talk to me about what Kyrie did. And be careful, tell me the right stuff, you know. And you had all these, you know, even black, you know, I was disappointed with Shaquille O'Neal. I love Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal showed that movie in a theater. You know what I mean? But had all this negative stuff to say. And I'm not saying Kyrie was right or wrong, but for him to be canceled like he was, I think it was just too much. I really think that they, you know, they made an example out of him.
They did.
But let me ask
you
this.
That even some of his answers went over their heads. He has and we all know Kyrie is a special kind of guy. We know that. Us in the black community, we know that in the black community. But outside of our community, they don't understand. You know what I mean? And so Kyrie is standing on principles that he feels are near and dear to his heart. And for him to be punished like he was, you know, I just think that it was a bit extreme. That's just my opinion.
I think so too. I was going to great call on Jabari. Did you have another question, Pernell?
No. Apostle hit on it. I was just going to ask. Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. Like, I feel like it was more how Kyrie, like, we know that personality, right? We've been around the you know the street philosophers, and you know,
we know.
Right, we know that, right? And we know what they're gonna say and what they're not gonna say. And I guess I felt like it was more of a personality, you know, thing with Kyrie, where because I guess I felt like my thing with Kyrie was, you know, that principle that he was gonna stand on. Was it the principle of like the book or the ability for him to do things, or was it just the principle of I decide what I want to say, how I want to say it, whenever I want to say it. And the reality is that unless you are somebody who runs your own business and does your own thing, we all have to answer to somebody. You know, every company that you work for, you're signing, when you sign, it's at will, and they have things there. And if you want to stand on some principle, they can cancel you or do whatever if it doesn't line up with who they are. And I just feel like sometimes with Kyrie, but once again, it's his personality. People like that, they're just, you know, they're way deep, man.
Well, one of the questions that they kept asking him was, do you denounce anti-Semitism, you know, right? Anti-Semitic. And he kept saying, well, if you understood who I was as a black man, it's impossible for me to be anti-Semitic. I understand what he's saying, you know, but I think they were missing it. He was talking about some historical things,
Of course,
that he 100% believes in, and they were missing it. They wanted him to say what the script said. No, say you're anti-Semitic.
Right. So
Well, he said in his heart, he's saying, I can't say that the way you want me to say it, and it mean the same thing as what I believe.
right.
And so it was a lot of this and that. And yeah, he was being a little difficult, you know what I mean? But I don't, to drop him from night, I think that was, I just think it was extreme.
I agree. Woo-wee. Attorney, question on the floor. And I'm not giving this to you because you're older than most of them on this panel. But it says for men who are in their mid-40s up until their 60s, would they be considered overly cautious or scared to penetrate the circles that are centered around gun violence and depravity, or deemed wise to let the chips fall where they may? That's from Angie Mills. Can you answer that question?
Let's see. Would they be considered overly cautious or scared to penetrate the circles? I don't know. I mean, I think that kind of depends on your upbringing and, you know, where you came from and what you're used to. Me personally, would I want to be in that circle? No, because that's not where I came from, and that's not what I'm used to. So, you know, I guess I consider myself fortunate, you know, with the kind of people and the, you know, the guys in the group, the family that I grew up with, and, you know, and then I you know, associated myself with, you know, that didn't roll in those kind of circles, or, you know, didn't do those kind of things. So, I mean, you know, it's, but, you know, people have different backgrounds. People, you know, when you're coming up, you know, in different things, I mean, that can certainly have an effect on how you act, how you react. And, you know, I mean, you know, I just keep going back to, you know, things. It's just so much different now. It's, you know, it is this TikTok, this, you know, this social media, you know, 10-second soundbite generation, you know, kind of getting back to what the apostle was talking about, you know, people they don't want to sit and listen to your elders because they don't have the attention span, you know, anymore to sit and listen to your elders after, you know, 10, 20, 30 seconds. If you can't say what you got to say in 30 seconds, you know, I'm thinking on the next thing. So it's, you know, and that's just kind of, you know, how the older generation has to reach, you know, this younger generation. It's like you gotta talk to them quicker. You gotta, you know, get your point across quicker. You gotta, you know, it's all sound bites. It's all, you know, and of course, doing that, a lot of information gets lost, or a lot of information doesn't get said, you know, and you know, that's kind of the problem. And you know, and I did just want to say real quick, you know, like the apostle was saying, how Nike kept Ja Morant, and, you know, yeah, they got rid of Kyrie, you know, or not got rid of, but they dropped, you know, they dropped Kyrie, or they canceled them, so to speak. But it's like, yeah, you know, obviously Kyrie did or was perceived to do, you know, it, you know, I guess harmed a certain group. But you think about what Ja did, or, you know, or his actions, you know, there was no group that was harmed. Or if you want to say there was a group that was harmed, it was Black men and their action. You know, if him doing that obviously wasn't enough for Nike to say, well, we're going to drop you, you know, as if to say, hey, the worth of black men is not worth as much as with a group that Kyrie supposedly harmed. So they didn't deem it a business to drop to cancel Moran, and that's just one of the things we as black men we have to make sure that we're getting our worth, or we know what we're worth, or see how outside is what we're worth. And some of these decisions and some of these things that that you see, it just kind of shows you that no, our worth, we're not worth as much in their eyes as other groups are. And and it's just important. Yes, you have to know your worth. It's just important, and you have to be around those who value your worth, and you value their worth.
Mm-hmm. Ooh wee! Now you were, that was good, because you kind of would lead me into my as we kind of end up on tonight. What do we do now? How do we encourage our how do you all encourage your brothers? How do you all encourage your sons, and those that are coming along that are watching this? Because I was even thinking, to make the right choices is what I finish out that statement. I was even thinking, as you guys were talking about Ja and him brandishing this weapon, it affects. You're out there on social media, and everybody's going to see this. So then you never know what impressions that this is making, on other people, and maybe it could be a result of, some shooting or something that happens after that. I'm even looking at this in Bolingbrook that happened. Was it yesterday? Yes, day before yesterday. And now they're charging a 17-year-old with killing 3 people, shooting 4, I believe, but three died. And
wasn't one of them 8 years old? A little girl.
The young girl.
Yeah.
The youngest was
8 or
9.
9. Yep.
Just came in this house, and this is what they're saying. So it where did he get that from? Where does that come? Was he influenced? Or was it a situation they were talking about earlier about the poverty, and how you came along, how you were raised? How do we deal with this? How do we deal with it?
I think one of the one thing that we struggle with, I think one of the things that we struggle with in our community is understanding that 2 things can be true. One is we can understand the plight of the community, the homelessness. We can understand the why, the hopelessness, and poverty, and the pressures, and the influences, and all of those things. And so that's true, and we understand and we see it. But then also the other thing that's true is there's still right and wrong. So while we know that owning guns are legal, and that there's all of these negative influences and all of these things that stacks things against them, we acknowledge that. But listen, we need to meet them where they are and invest in making sure that they have options that they see. And if they veer from that, there has to be punishment for it, right? Yeah. But you don't punish and throw away, you punish and then you start to rebuild, right? And you try to bring them back from those mistakes and things. And I think too many times it's, once again, all or nothing. Oh, well, it's just terrible. If you knew his background, but there's still people over here that are dead, or there's still these other losses that have happened. You have to be able to see that both things are true and then find a way to navigate it. Like the question before, should we be fearful? Me being a a preacher and a man of faith, however God leads, right? I have to be able to go and speak where God desires for me to go and speak. Now, I'm not going to be called to pull and witness the same people as apostle, the same people as you, Sister Netta, same as others, but whoever that is, I have to be able to walk and speak and pour into, with power and authority, and give them something, right? Not just some deep spiritual, untangible scripture, but something tangible and real. Why is mission work so important? Why did Jesus do miracles? Because if you feed me, now I'm going to want to hear what you have to say. If I'm blind and you open my eyes, now I'm going to want to hear what you have to say. So if I want to reach a teenager that doesn't see a way out, that said I started with nothing, and so if I end with nothing, I haven't lost anything, I have to give them something tangible that they can see, something that will benefit their lives, impact their mothers, impact their homes, giving them options. And then I can start to pour into and start dealing with those deeper issues, those deeper, scars that they're carrying, the social trauma, the emotional trauma, and the spiritual needs that they have. And so to me, that, you have to start though with the truth, and that both of these things are true. They're in a bad place, but we still have to deal with what's right.
All right. Anyone else want to jump in on that? Cornelius, you back? So I saw some of your comments in the private chat here. When you're at your highest moment, the devil comes for you. Denzel Washington, that's right. That's exactly what he said. And then you mentioned about the NRA and being political. But you can go ahead, Cornelius.
No, I thought what Pastor John said was spot on. I mean, I think, you have to have meat in the house. You have to have something they can chew on. And, former Pastor Adams used to say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You got to catch the fish, you know what I'm saying? And then you got to scale it, you know what I mean? And so, but there's more than one way to catch the fish, you know what I'm saying? So what do we put on our bait, on our hooks? And, just like Pastor John said, we have to, this generation, and me and John have talked about this ad nauseum, just, you have to meet them. The message of old has to be kept the same, but it has to be delivered in another medium. We have to find another way to deliver that same message. It's still going to be powerful, and we still have to make sure that the content is still the same, but we may have to change it. And I think the one thing that even Pastor John has done a tremendous job, even with the youth ministry, is that he's tried different venues to get that message out. You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing that we, even from a religious standpoint and a non-religious standpoint, we have to get that message out, and we have to make sure it translates to whatever the language is. Paul said, I had to become all to attract all, and I'm paraphrasing, you know what I mean? So meaning that, I had to become who that person is in order for them to be able to see me, to even understand my message. And that's kind of the way I teach. Sometimes I have to find out and find commonalities with my students. It's all about relationships. They don't care what you know, to know that you care. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing that we have to even apply to this. And it's not so much a wayward generation, because if we think about it, we were also wayward. You know what I'm saying? Everybody on this panel, we just didn't have social media to expose our waywardness. You know what I mean? So I don't want to come off as that I've done everything correctly. You know what I'm saying? But I also want to make sure I'm aware that, hey, you were once a 21-year-old kid, 25-year-old young man making some questionable decisions. And if it wasn't for grace, you know what I mean? If it wasn't for grace, you might have saw me in the news. You know what I mean? So I try to constantly remind myself of those things that, hey, don't get so high and we start always pointing the finger that we don't remember where we came from. And then I think even Attorney Jackson was saying, hey, we got to make sure to understand there's still immature. You know what I mean? Some of these guys have never balanced a checkbook. They don't know what a checkbook is. You know what I mean? They don't know what a calculator is, you know, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? They don't know what dial-up internet sounds like. I mean, there's so many different things that we have to make sure that when we're talking to them, you know, and I have these same conversations with my students, like, hey, you know, a lot of them have never seen two-parent homes. You know what I mean? So when I'm speaking to them, I even have to be cognizant of the fact that they don't know what it's even like to come up in a two-parent home, let alone their birth mother raised them, because so many of this generation is being raised by their grandparents. You know what I mean? And that plays a lot into how they're being disciplined, because a lot of the grandparents don't know how to discipline this type of generation of kid. So not only are they disciplining their parents, but they're disciplining their grandchildren. So it's like, you know, now how does that play into the development? You know, and then going back to Ja Morant and basketball, sometimes their only way out of that situation, and not Ja Morant exclusively, but other athletes who are just as talented, is the vein of basketball. So now they've only had basketball to raise them, to train them, to show them how to be a man. That's what makes LeBron James such an amazing individual, because not only was he able to use basketball, but he was able to understand how to become a man. And you have to really thank his mom for making sure that she put the right things in front of him, because he was only a decision away from maybe being another Ja Morant. But somebody got to him and he was able to learn. And that's why sometimes when we get into and I'm going on another tangent between Michael and LeBron had to overcome so much and be the man so fast. He had to grow up and deal with this weight of being this chosen one to lead this generation of young people. And not only did he hit out the ballpark, he's continually hitting out the ballpark. So you have to really give him his just deserves now, because I don't know if a young person in his shoes in this generation could perform so admirably with so much intense light on you, and you have to respond and be good. So to kind of cap that, I had to say what John was saying. We really have to be careful, even when we're chastising them, how we chastise. You know, because sometimes if we come off as being a little bit like we've never done anything, and they don't see our story, then how can we change theirs? You know what I mean? So I think that I really appreciate that, John, because we don't talk about that, and I think that's where the rubber meets the road, where we kind of lose that generation where they're like, I can't relate to this story. This doesn't apply to me. So how can I really listen to you? How can I follow you? Because you didn't grow up like I grew up, you know. So that's kind of my stance on it.
Yeah, and I'll speak, and I won't speak too long because John and Corn, they both kind of hit it on the head with everything, and I totally agree with what they're saying. One thing I'll say real quick, when you're talking about LeBron and MJ and all that, I'm team MJ as far as who's the best, whatever. But all that being said, it amazes me how much hate that LeBron gets, because I mean, what the guy, like you were saying, what the guy has done is phenomenal. And he's one who did sit and listen to the elders and took that stuff to heart. And I really think that, and I really think that when he's done playing, he still is going to have a lot more work to do, or he's going to accomplish a lot more than what he accomplished dribbling a basketball, the time that he spent dribbling a basketball, because, he gets it. I can't have any hate, for that guy, but, you ask me who I want, I'll take MJ, but I'm just saying, but as far as, I mean, I idolize what he's done and what he's doing, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do, So I just want to say that real quick. But as far as what, Pastor John and Corn, what everybody was talking about, it's like we can't when our parents told us stuff and we were like, why? The answer was because I said so. And we took that and, we went on. And okay, well, that's how it is. You can't say that nowadays because, these children, these kids, I used to say they're smarter than we were. I'm not going to so much say they're smarter. I'm just going to say they have more access to information, at an early age than we did. So, it's not enough anymore to just say, yeah, because I told you so. You kind of have to get into explaining why I'm telling you so. And, and you have to do it in a manner that they accept. My youngest, my twins, my youngest boys, they're 18 now. And, and their first year away at school. But I talk to them a lot differently than I talked to them when they were 17 and 16. Just that year, a difference, and it's just because, you realize that, they, thankfully, they see what's going on. They understand, what's out there. They understand how things are, and the things that they don't understand, they question, well, why this, why that, and can't just say I told you so, because they can go somewhere else and get the answer quickly, and it might not be the answer that you want them to hear, or the answer that they should be hearing. So, just like what everybody's saying, you have to meet them. You kind of got to meet them where they can hear you, and that takes some growth, on us, and the older generation, so to speak. It's you're constantly learning, and that's just how it is now. So just to kind of answer your question, you do kind of have to meet them where they are, because that's kind of how we've allowed this society to go. But at the same time, I mean, you can't afford not to. You can't afford to have them getting their information elsewhere, because pretty much everywhere else in this country is not set up to have a Black man succeed, if they're not getting the proper nurturing that they're supposed to get, from that family. So, you just got to meet them, where they want to be heard, where they can be heard.
Yeah. I agree. That's good stuff. Apostle, this has been a very entertaining evening. As always, though, I mean, you guys said some great, and just hoping that it, connects with those who are listening, and be able to help push us forward in dealing with this, because this is it's reality. It's reality. Some things we wish we could change, and it not be like this, but it is. Apostle, do you want to wrap us up tonight?
Just to go along with what these brilliant young men have answered, I agree with them wholeheartedly. One of the most profound things I witnessed tonight, though, and that is when we first got on, and I think it's really the answer to the question, how each one of these young men, when they introduced themselves and talked about what is happening in their lives, they not one of them neglected to talk about how proud they were to be husbands and fathers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that not one of you guys left that out, that you are so proud to be husbands and fathers. And I think that's really what the answer is to the changes that we need to make in the next generation It's just making sure as husbands and fathers that we raise our sons and daughters to take pride in family and community, and just make sure that we're teaching them the right thing. So, it just, I kind of smiled openly, but also it just warmed my heart to hear. I mean, just one after the other. You just couldn't leave that out, just proud to be a husband and a father. And I think that's the answer.
That was a good summary. Thank you. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, of course, I was impressed by it, but that's what I wanted to bring out. I wanted them, to share with everyone, who they are, where they are, because that set the stage to be, to even just have this discussion tonight. You know what I mean? There's a lot of knowledge that was shared on tonight, and what better panel than to have come from each of them. So this was tremendous. Again, guys, I can't I can't express how excited I am to have you guys come back. I know it didn't even seem like when I had to go back through the little history and see when our last show was, but it was 2021. When we started, of course, like I said, it was during the shutdown. Everybody was at home, so you all were a captive audience for me. But then when the world started opening up, as men, as husbands, as fathers, you needed to get back out into the world and do what you needed to do to make sure that your family was safe, taken care of. So I understood that. But I'm grateful again. And I asked them to come on because I'm celebrating my 10 year in broadcasting with this Where Are They Now segment. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but we did start in 2013, and God is just blessing. He's opening doors, and to have individuals like you, a panel such as this, has been an ultimate pleasure for me. I'm always, anyone knows me, I'm always pushing my brothers. I'm always encouraging my brothers. And whether any of you realize it or not, you're in my prayers. You are in my prayers. Your families are in my prayers. And, I'm going to continue that. I'm so godly proud of each of you. You just do not know. You're setting examples, for others around you. And I know that you know that, but people are watching you, they see you, and they see the contributions that you're making even to society. So I'm so proud of all that you are accomplishing and have accomplished. Now I'm looking here in our private chat, and I'm looking at some acknowledgments here. Some 25th anniversary, wedding anniversary next week. That's right. This is March, right?
Yep, the 14th. Yep, on the 14th. Yep, okay, that's right.
Yes, Elder Purnell and my girl Charlotte will be celebrating 25 years of marriage, so that's a blessing. And let's see, 20 years in June, Jabari? Is that right? 30? Well, y'all go ahead and throw this on up in here. Yes. 20 years in June. Happy anniversary in advance. And the Crossleys, 10 years. Oh, that's right. 10 years in August.
That's what I'm talking about.
That is so crazy.
What'd you say, Apostle?
I said, that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. And that's why I said that you guys are wonderful examples. That's a blessing. Let's see, the elder and I coming up on 26 this year. I guess I'll throw that on in there.
We'll be 23 next month.
I was about to ask. Okay, so we're in here. We like pray, bro. We're in here. Now let me stop. But yeah, that's good stuff. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing to see and to hear of these accomplishments. So again, guys, thank you. I appreciate you. And then thank you, my supporters, my listeners, those who are over on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Thank you for all your comments. I know I couldn't get to most of them. Some of y'all are like, read my comment. I was trying. I was trying to charge it to my head, not my heart. We want to be able to hear from our panel tonight. But I thank you for engaging with us. I do appreciate all of it. Now, I do have a show on tomorrow. Y'all pray for your sister. 12 noon Central Standard Time. March is Women's History Month. So we're going to highlight a few women this month. And tomorrow we're going to talk to Sakia Robinson. She's doing some things over there, fitness and otherwise, but we're going to place her in our segment entitled Her Story. Well, instead of history, her story. All right. So hopefully you guys can join. If not live, you can look at the replay. We would appreciate that. Go on over to my YouTube channel. Make sure you guys subscribe for me. Get Caught in the Net Incorporated. Doing some great things. Still pushing out our book. And the Lord is just opening up doors and making ways. And we're so grateful and glad. We are going to get out of here. So is that it? You good?
I'm good.
You good? All right. All right. Thanks again, guys. Cornelius, I know you were in the midst of doing some domestic duties on tonight, but thank you. Thank you for joining us. Oh, and let me say also, we had a couple of individuals that were not able to get on tonight. So shout out to Marcus Adams. He had a last minute job meeting on tonight. And then Matthew Adams, he did message me. And you know what? Let me see if I can read. He wanted you all to know what he has been up to and how the Lord has blessed him. He says, he's the director of the men's ministry. Goodness. At his church, All Nations Worship Assembly in New York. A lot of work has been involved with that on top of his day-to-day job living. And he says he's living with a purpose-driven life in New York. And it is a beautiful thing. And we know that that's one of his things that he's accomplished since we've met last. He's moved to New York, but he's doing great things there. And he wants you all to know about it as well. So I know that you guys, got a lot on your plate. And like I said, some couldn't make it and some had to jump off. Michael had to go back to work. Matthias had to go back to work. So I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for all of it. And I'm here for all of it. All right, guys. So we're going to get out of here. And if that's it, I'm going to play my jingle for tomorrow. My promo. Again, shout out to Lady Brandy for supplying me with this on this evening. So take a look and we'll see you soon. On the next session of Get Caught in a Net.
Caught in a net with a net. For your mind, body, and soul gets caught in a net with a net. It's your intellectual radio show, here to inspire you and encourage you to be your very best. Get caught in a net with a net. Get caught in a net with